Howdy, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Even though I'm called STPs are us, I decided to branch out into Packers. So today we'll be ranking and reviewing the Mr. Limpy by Fleshlight. Just like STPs, I'll be ranking the prosthetic based off of 5 different criteria. First one is going to be looks and realism. Will this look natural if I wear this into the shower? Next one is going to be comfort and packability. Will this look or feel like I have a boner when wearing it? Next one is going to be the squishiness rating. How soft is this prosthetic and will it pass the grab test? Up next is pricing. Will I be broke if I buy this prosthetic? Yes or no? And finally, my overall ranking and would I recommend this to people? Before we get started, I'd like to point out that I bought this prosthetic with my own money. Nobody sent it to me for review. And if something works for me, it may not necessarily work for you. So please keep that in mind. Before we get on to the review, I'd like to give you fair warning that what you're about to see is a prosthetic that looks like a penis. If this bothers you in any way, please feel free to click off. Thank you for watching as long as you did, and have a good one. Alright, here is the Mr. Limpy by Fleshlight. This is their small, and it is in the medium color, I believe. Flat back, very squishy. Very squishy. So, because the Mr. Limpy is kind of an icon for transmasculine individuals or people who like to pack, I actually reached out to the company and did a bit of research on the Mr. Limpy to find out some of its history. So I reached out to Fleshlight and they said that the Mr. Limpy was one of their first products that they actually came out with, so it could have been originated back in 1998 when the company was first started. And the original intent of the Mr. Limpy was to give customers a feel for the Fleshlight material that they use in their Fleshlights, and then it became a gag gift, and then later on it became very popular with people who wanted to start packing. In fact, I actually looked up one of the earliest mentions that I could find online for people mentioning the Mr. Limpy for packing, and it was this website called Sugar Butch back in 2008 when they were comparing packers, and this came up. But I'm sure this was used as a packer for years prior to that. So after that quick little history lesson, we can actually go on to the review. So this is the small version. They actually have 3 sizes available, and they have 2 different color variations. I have seen that they used to have a bubblegum pink version, but I don't see it as widely available as this color and the light version. The size specs on this are total length is 3.75 inches or about 9.52 centimeters. The shaft is only about 3 inches or 7.62 centimeters. And the weight of this is 120 grams or 4.23 ounces. And when measuring this, this was about the same weight as the average sized banana, which is kind of funny. So these can cost anywhere from around $15 USD or $20 USD, just depends on who you buy it from. When I received the Mr. Limpy, it came in a bubble envelope, and inside the bubble envelope was a storage pouch, which is resealable, and the prosthetic inside. I'm not a big fan of bubble envelopes, but I did like the fact that the packaging that it actually came in was a reusable bag. For my pricing tier, this has got to go in bargain. For $15, there's a reason this is a lot of younger people's first packer, and it's due to the price. I also think it's a really great price point for someone who's maybe testing out to see if they even want to start packing, and maybe want an upgrade from just using a sock. So the first thing I noticed about the Mr. Limpy was how soft this thing is. This is like the softest packer I've found so far, and it's because it's a TPU, TPE blend material. It's not 100% silicone, it's that Fleshlight material. But the downsides of that are, it has this really plasticky smell to it that I don't like, and anytime I touch it, I feel like it leaves a kind of residue on my fingers that I'm not a big fan of. Because it's also TPU, I'm not quite sure how skin safe this would be if you're using it 24/7. So when using this, I always made sure that there was some sort of barrier between me and the packer, whether it was a packing strap or the pocket of my STP underwear. The next thing I noticed was For the price point and the fact that this wasn't originally intended to be a packer, it was more of a gag gift or just like a test material for people, it has a shockingly good amount of detailing on it. Like the balls have detailing on them, there's actual skin texture on this, there's actually a little divot where your urethra would be on the head. It has a shocking amount of good detail, like there's even veins on it. I will point out that on the side right here, it has their branding, which if that bothers you, I totally understand. The back of it is also curved inward, if you can see that, so it helps when it sits up against you. The balls aren't 3D, and it's that same fleshlight material, so keep that in mind. It even has this line that goes on the underside of the shaft, which is really cool. I was shockingly impressed by how well this looks. I just wish it did have maybe more paint on it to help highlight those details, because it is a bit harder to see on this, but I don't think you can paint TPU or TPE. I have heard of people using makeup that stains the material, so the more you do it, the darker the color would stay. I haven't personally tested it, but I would like to see it. Or if they maybe went the Axilum route where they use a dual pore material. I know because they had those pink ones in the past, maybe they could use that for the shaft and maybe some blushing on the balls itself, but I don't know. For the color on this, I don't think it's a bad match to me. It is a lot more orangey than I'd like, but it's not too bad. I do wish that they had a wider variety of colors, because so far I've only seen the 2 normal color skin tones and then that pink one. So it'd be interesting to see if they actually expanded it out. For my looks and realism tier, I'm gonna have to put this in little sus. Because it's a cut model, the lack of paint is more obvious, but the detailing and sculpting is actually pretty good, especially for the price point and what the initial intent for this product was. Honestly, I'd like to see if someone has ever actually painted their Mr. Limpy. If you have, please share with me, I'd love to see the results. So for packing with this, like I said before, I always made sure to keep a barrier between myself and the packer, so I wouldn't get that smell stuck to me, because I really didn't like it, or the feeling of that residue. But packing with this is actually really comfortable. It compresses really well because it's so squishy, and because this is the smaller size, it makes a more smaller bulge, which makes sense. I did notice that it had a tendency, because the shaft points out slightly instead of laying flat on the balls, I noticed that it had a tendency to kind of wander off to the side a little bit, which some people actually prefer that when packing. It was just something I noticed. I think some tighter underwear would help keep this in place really well. So if you noticed, I did indeed change the rankings for comfort and packability when it comes to packers, and I think they're really funny, so I hope you like them. For my actual ranking for the Mr. Limpy, I think I'm going to have to put this one in Daily Driver. I think it makes a really nice bulge, and it's really soft and squishy, so it's really comfortable to wear overall. I wouldn't recommend this, though, for skin-on-skin contact if you don't like wearing a packing strap. Just because, again, I can't attest to how safe it is to be on your skin all day long. So for the squishiness of the Mr. Limpy, this really is the squishiest packer I've found so far. And again, it's because it's not silicone. If you had a silicone prosthetic that was this squishy, it would be super sticky and on the verge of being unusable. It doesn't have 3D balls, which would be nice if it had it, and personally, I think it would pass a grab test, but I think it's just a little too soft, because if you think about how a flaccid penis sits in pants and how the anatomy works, there's going to be a slightly firmer core on the inside, and then it's going to be squishier on the outside. But overall, I do think it would pass a grab test. For my squishiness ranking, this is going absolutely in Jello tier. This is the squishiest packer I've found so far. I do have a few contenders that are close, and I'll be doing reviews for them later on, but for now, this is the squishiest thing I've felt. If it had 3D balls in it, I also think that would probably help with the grab test, and it would make it cooler, but I know that would drive up the cost. So, what did I think about the Mr. Limpy by Fleshlight? You might think after I did a whole history lesson on it and did research on this prosthetic and talked all this stuff about it, they're going to be like, oh, this is a must-have. But shockingly, I'm not the biggest fan of this prosthetic. A lot of it comes down to the durability of something of this material, how long it's going to last for you, is it worth the price point, and a safety issue of is it going to grow bacteria or is it going to be skin safe for a long period of time. If there was something very similar to this, but was made of skin-safe material, I would absolutely recommend that. But overall, I think if you're strapped for cash and you just want a basic packer to see if you'd like it, this would be an overall good option. Again, I would just be careful and make sure you're cleaning it and checking for any mold growth or bacteria. I'd also like to point out that because it has that strong plasticky smell, I personally would not be a fan of my crotch smelling like it. So there's that too. So for my overall ranking, it's going to go into worth a try. For $15, this is a steal, and if you don't have a lot of available funds, I think this would be a good bang for your buck, but I still would highly suggest you try to save up a little bit and get something that will last you longer and be safe to use in the long run. I do know that a few companies like GenderCat, you can reach out to them and they can try to hook you up with a packer. Same with Axlum, if you reach out to them, they might be able to send you something for free. So, that was my review of the Mr. Limpy. A little piece of history here, which I was really happy to do a review on, even if I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I hope this video was informative, entertaining, gave you some insight on this prosthetic. If you have any questions about this one in particular, or any others that I'm going to be doing in the future, or have done, please let me know. Have a good one. Also, I hope you guys enjoyed me reaching out and starting to rank packers. I've been intending to do it for a while now. I just had the hardest time figuring out what I wanted the tier listings to be, and I settled on what I have now, but I hope you enjoyed them. Now that this review is done, I'm gonna go wash my hands, because this smell sticks to everything.